I'm calling to order this hearing. This is a public hearing of the Committee of the Whole of the Council of the District of Columbia. I am Phil Mendelson, Chair of the Council and Chair of the Committee of the Whole. Today is Wednesday, October 8th, 2025. The time is 10:28 in the morning, and we are holding this hearing in room 412 of the John A. Wilson Building. This hearing is being recorded and will be available on the council's website, which is www.dccouncil.gov. The subject of this morning's hearing is consideration of Bill 26-311, which is entitled Closing of a Portion of a Public Alley in Square 3524, SO 23-06402, Act of 2025. The purpose of this bill is to close a portion of a public alley in Square 3524, which is bounded by, the square is bounded by Lincoln Road, R Street, First Street, and Northeast. The closure of a portion of the public alley will allow for the consolidation of several lots that will facilitate the development of 27 residential units to be sold as a combination of two-family townhouses and single-family homes. The record in this matter will be open for 2 weeks. That is, it will close at 5 p.m. on Monday, October 20th, 2025. I'm going to call the first three witnesses who I think all know each other. Nope, first two witnesses. Carrie Kadlicek, Director at Goulston Stores, and Brian Brown, who's CEO and founder of Next Gen Group. And whichever one of you wants to go first.
Good morning, Chairman Mendelson.
Morning.
If you could pull up our presentation for us, please. Thanks for having us again. My name is Carrie Kadlicek from the law firm of Goulston Stores. I'm the land use counsel for the owner and developer of the property surrounding the subject alley closing. Mr. Brown, the owner and developer, will give you more specific information about the project and the alley closing that will be facilitated. So I'll just provide you a brief overview of the proposed alley closing. Next slide, please. The proposed alley closing, as mentioned at the beginning of the hearing, is for a dead-end stub in Square 3524, as shown on this surveyor plat. The applicant owns the adjacent lots 52, 53, and 802. Next slide, please. As mentioned, the proposed alley closing is for a portion of the 20-foot wide alley in the square, and that comprises approximately 1,125 square feet. The alley closing allows the consolidation of 5 lots, 52, 53, 800, 802, and 803, into one parcel, including the closed alley portion, to facilitate the construction of a new residential development containing 16 for-sale townhouses. To make it clear that 10 of those townhouses are actually sort of duplexes with 2 units in them. That's why there's sometimes a discrepancy in the number, but it's 16 for-sale townhouses. 3 of those townhouses will be reserved as affordable for families earning up to 60% MFI in accordance with the inclusionary zoning program. This project has already been approved by the Zoning Commission as a planned unit development, and that approval came last year. And then as a result of the PUD process, there's already been extensive community engagement that started in 2014, but the bulk of that engagement occurred during 2022 through 2024 as we were going through the PUD process. Next slide, please. The development parcel is comprised of 2 existing row houses on First Street. That's kind of to the right there of where the red area of the alley closing is. That will be incorporated into the new development. And then the alley lots to the west of that go all the way to the alley stub on the west side. And that will all comprise the development parcel. There, of course, is an east-west alley that runs through the square to the south of the parcel. That's a 20-foot wide alley that won't be affected by this alley closing. And then, of course, as mentioned at the top of the hearing, the square surrounded by Lincoln Road to the west, First Street to the east. District-owned land to the north contains the Emory Work-Based Support Shelter, the Harry Thomas Recreation Center, and the McKinley Technology School's campus to the north. Next slide, please. This just gives you an overview of the project footprint on the overall development parcel, showing the closed alley portion in red, That's actually where one of the proposed townhouses will be built. Next slide, please. The project will include numerous public benefits as further described in our application statement and materials. But a few examples of those public benefits include the affordable housing, the 3 units of for sale affordable housing, LEED Gold design, and some traffic calming that will be incorporated into the east-west alley. Next slide, please. As shown in the materials submitted with the application, all the agencies are in support or have no objection. The proposed alley closing is consistent with the Street and Alley Acquisitions Procedure Act of 1982, as further described in our application. One of the main standards of that is that it is unnecessary for street or alley purposes. It's a dead-end alley stub. It doesn't lead into anything, and it will facilitate the development of this project with numerous public benefits. It's also consistent with the comprehensive plan as further described in our application materials because it furthers multiple policies and objectives of the comprehensive plan. I'll just note finally that there are 2 conditions in the DDOT report, both of which the applicant has complied with. One is applicant has paid DDOT for the removal of some of the assets in the alley. And then finally, the applicant has also received a permit to remove a tree at the northern end of the alley stub, which is one of the other conditions of the DDOT report. Finally, I'll note that ANC 5F has submitted a resolution in support. That was a combined resolution that they submitted with the PUD application. They voted on everything at the same time, but that is also included in the record. I'm available to answer any questions, but I will turn it over to Mr. Brown to give you a little bit more of an overview of the project itself.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brian Brown, and I have been a resident of Washington for 38 years. I resided in Shaw and LaDroit Park neighborhoods next to Exington the entire time. I've also been a real estate developer much of that time. I've focused on acquiring and redevelopment of vacant and distressed townhouses and smaller buildings whose renovations would have a direct and immediate impact on the neighborhood. Some of these properties have been sold to homeowners with the balance being used for long-term rentals. Currently, 80% of those rentals are duplexes and 4-unit townhouses are in the Section 8 program. In 2001, I acquired 3 of these alley lots as garages for use in my work on work. The alley lots consist of 3 storage garages and a large fenced-in yard. While this land and the garages have always been fenced in and with regular activity, there's one dead-end alley adjacent to this parcel on the east side that has always attracted the prostitution, the drug addicts, illegal dumping, and stolen cars. Some years later, I acquired the townhouses and street frontage next to the alley lots. Since 2014, I've been meeting with the Office of Planning, the ANC 5F, neighbors, as well as the Eckington Civic Association regarding my land to determine what the best development of space should be. After several years of discussion and feedback, in 2018, the neighborhood consensus was they wanted more for-sale townhouses. After delay due to the pandemic, we filed the PUD to build and sell 16 for-sale townhouses, 27 units, 11 duplexes with garages, 5 single-family townhouses. 3 of these townhouses are inclusionary zoning that would be sold at 60% AMI. The PUD was approved in less than a year in mid-24 with 0 opposition from the community. We also received letters of support that were sent to the Zoning Commission from over a dozen owners immediately adjacent to the project in question. This project is a major improvement over the historic use of the land for storage. The design includes extensive landscaping, additional bike racks, other improvements requested by the community in the process. The project should add about 12 to 15 million in property tax revenue to the city tax base. The duplex homes are unique in that they can be separate rentals where the second unit is at grade with all one level, so it can be used by the owner as an in-law suite if they need to support elderly family member with limited mobility. The design with minor modification can be reconfigured into a large single-family home, 5-bedroom, 5-bath, and a den over 3 levels and a basement. Overall, the concept of this was flexibility to provide generational housing for extended families as the city population grows. In order for this project to proceed, it requires a partial permanent closure of the dead-end alley. The same alley has a history of prostitution, drug addicts, illegal dumping, and abandoned cars. We did extensive outreach for this alley closing to the community district agencies, Ward 5 Council office, as well as Anita Bond's office. The 3 townhouses that abut this alley there are 3 townhouses that abut this alley being closed. 2 of the townhouses are part of the redevelopment. The owner of the 3rd property, 1706 First Street Northeast, not only in support of closing the alley, he actually wrote an extensive letter supporting the overall project to the zoning commission. We are currently working on financing of this project, and with God's blessing, we hope to break ground mid-26 with delivery of the project a year later. Thank you for your consideration and support.
Thank you. Thank you, each of you, for your testimony. I do have a couple of questions. So the ANC is supportive. How would you characterize the zoning commission hearing?
Pretty straightforward, not controversial. If my memory serves me correctly, I think we got a vote at the end of the hearing. The first vote, it was one of two votes. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I think. But the process went pretty smoothly.
And they shortened the presentation to 10 minutes from the 2 hours we're told to expect to shorten it.
So your characterization is that there just is no community opposition to
I've
this?
found none. I've lived in the neighborhood for so long that I've never had anybody pop up. One of the things I'd done even with my rentals is when I have properties in the area, I introduce myself to all the neighbors. I give them a direct number to me, and I say if there's a problem with a neighbor or a tenant, I want to know about it because I'm a member of the community. So my approach is to do non-controversial projects. In 2014, I suggested a neighborhood, an apartment building, and they very clearly made it clear they didn't want that, which is why I came back at a later date with townhouses, because they said this is what they want. They wanted more quality townhouses. And my whole thought process is we need more generational housing. You need to have something where you can start out in a property living on the upper level, rent out the lower level. But if your parents get elderly or you have a family member that needs help, you can move them in at that level. At the garage level, there's a bonus room that meets egress requirements for a legal bedroom. That could be a caretaker's space. It could be a nanny's quarters. It could be a home office. And it gives you a lot of flexibility to what you can do in the house. I spent a lot of time looking at homes that do extended families on the West Coast. They tend to have more space, so they spread out. So I had to think about how do we design something that would be useful to the city in that environment. Because if you could start as a one bedroom as a rental and have a 3-bedroom, 3-bath up top, it gives the family a lot of capabilities. But with the bonus room in the basement, they can open up the common staircase and make a couple minor modifications, and they've got a 5-bedroom house. I wanted that kind of flexibility, and that's unusual, I think, in the city to find. And each one has a garage.
So let me ask another question. I'm looking at the page in the presentation. It's titled Existing Survey with Proposed Project Footprint. Somebody's in control of that. Can pull that up? So, to the right, which would be east, is First Street, and to the left, which would be west, is Lincoln Road, and to the west of that is North Capitol Street, correct?
Yes.
And this property largely fronts on although it says our street alley. It fronts on an alley?
Front side.
Yeah, well, the actual street frontage it has is First Street through the two townhouses that are on First Street there at the very far right. Those are existing townhouses that will be incorporated into development, and that's the only street frontage, technical street frontage. The rest of it, the vehicular access will be through that alley that runs along the south side of the property that separates it from the townhouses that front on our street.
And that alley has a formal name, or it's just?
It does not.
Okay, and so for somebody who lives in what is right now, well, the rear of the property, which is right now lot 800, if I'm understanding this correctly, how would they get to their units?
They would, on First Street to the north of the two townhouses, there is a 15-foot wide opening. That would become a pedestrian entrance for the fronts of the townhouses. So they'd enter off First Street. And for cars, they'd come in off the alley, parking just like any other neighbor opposite of the existing townhouses. So if you notice the footprint for the townhouse, you'll see a little bit of white space just north of the First Street townhouses. That's approximately 15 feet width, and it gets wider as you walk back.
And that's for walking?
That's for pedestrian access, correct.
What's the distance from First Street to the rearest portion of the building?
To the far west side?
Yeah.
That would be
Looks like it's about 230 feet-ish,
Okay,
maybe a little less.
Yeah, probably 230.
Yeah.
And then for access also on the west side, you off the alley will have a access control gate where they can buzz themselves in if they're coming through that, but they'd have to walk through the alley. But we want to give them dual access.
okay.
And then of all the 10 townhouses that are on what is shown currently as 800, 803, and 802, that's a row of 10 of the townhouses. They all have garages that open onto that R Street alley. So that would be another way that someone could enter their house if they
So those are existing townhouses?
They're not existing. There's nothing there now.
It's just a couple warehouses.
It's some warehouses and a vacant lot. So if you go,
Okay, so I misunderstood you. You were referring to the townhouses to be built.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would have access off of the alley.
Yeah. So and that what's shown on this page here is current lots 800, 803, and 802. That's some warehouses and then just some flat land, like non-improved land.
So it's sort of an odd-shaped building because it's not strictly rectangular. It's a good solid rectangular chunk to the rear to the west, and then like a little, what do I want to say, a little stem, and then it connects with lots 52 and 53.
Mhm.
And Mr. Brown, was it the owner of lot 54 who you said submitted an extensive statement?
Yes.
Okay. I believe that at the time that this was introduced, which was in late June, the Councilmember Parker was pushing for us to act very quickly. I pushed back because we like to have hearings before we do things like this. What is the sense of timing or urgency?
I would like to get these out of the ground from a construction standpoint. I have a daughter that's graduated, lives in Florida, is talking about coming back, and I'd love to have her have one of these houses so she's in our neighborhood. And that's primarily my agenda. I've had the land for 24 years, all the alley lots. I've had the North Townhouse since 2014. I've had the second townhouse since 2021. So, and they've been rentals. So I've not, my base is low. I'm not pressed from any perspective in that respect. I'm one of those people that would just like to get things done and be proactive. And I figured if I was going to start spending money on zoning and attorneys and everything else, I'd like to get the returns quicker because it's better. But I have no set agenda to move faster.
Yeah. Give me just a second. I did not have any other questions for you at this time. Stick around just in case something comes up.
If I may make one more note.
Sure.
Of all the houses on R Street on Lincoln Road, I believe 9 or 10 of them wrote letters of support on the project to the zoning commission, and they're on record.
Okay.
So,
Okay, that's all helpful. Thank you. So let me call the two government witnesses, Brant Miller, who's Manager of Policy and Legislative Affairs, District Department of Transportation, and Elisa Vitale, who is Deputy Zoning Administrator, Department of Buildings. You should abandon your seat.
Wasn't sure if you wanted me to stay up here.
No, I may or may not have more questions for you. I probably won't, but I did say stick around. Mr. Miller, I haven't seen you in a while.
Always happy to be here.
Yes, well, that's because we have warm, friendly hearings. Do you want to go first and then Ms. Vitale?
Absolutely. Good morning, Chairman Mendelson, members of the council, staff, and district residents. My name is Brant Miller, Manager of Policy and Legislative Affairs at the District Department of Transportation, commonly referred to as DDOT. I am here today to present testimony on behalf of Mayor Muriel Bowser and DDOT Director Sharon Kirschbaum regarding Bill 260311, closing of a portion of a public alley in Square 3524, Surveyor's Order 2306402, Act of 2025. Bill 260311 would close an excess portion of the alley system in Square 3524 to allow for the development of 27 residential units that would be sold as a combination of two-family townhouses and single-family homes in Ward 5. As outlined in the surveyor's order report filed by DDOT with the DC surveyor on July 25th, 2024, DDOT had the following conditions on its support of the closure. The applicant compensates DDOT for the streetlight facilities in the existing alley network. The applicant receives approval from the zoning commission, and the applicant receives approval for a tree protection plan or tree removal permits for the special tree within the alley closure area. The applicant has met all three conditions, and DDOT supports the closure. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to testify before you today. I am available to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. And is it Vitale or Vital?
Vitale, that's correct.
Right.
Good morning, Chairman Mendelson, council members, and staff of the Committee of the Whole. I am Elisa Vitale, Deputy Zoning Administrator of the District of Columbia at the Department of Buildings. I appear before you today to provide background information on Bill 26-311, the closing of a public alley in Square 3524, SO 23-06402, Act of 2025. This bill was introduced by Chairman Phil Mendelson on behalf of the mayor. The purpose of this bill is to close a portion of the public alley in Square 3524, bounded by Lincoln Road Northeast, R Street Northeast, and First Street Northeast in Ward 5. The closure of the public alley will allow for the consolidation of several lots that will facilitate the development of 27 residential units, which are to be sold as a combination of two-family townhouses and single-family homes. The applicant for this bill is Brian Brown, who is represented by Goulston and Storrs. The Office of the Surveyor has notified the relevant executive branch agencies and utility companies of this application back on December 13th, 2023. And in a letter dated July 25th, 2024, the District Department of Transportation determined that there is no longer a transportation need to the alley area, which is proposed to be closed. DDOT is supportive of moving forward with legislation to close the alley. They did note objections to the recordation of all closure plats until the following conditions were satisfied. Those being that the applicant compensate DDOT in the amount of $4,265 for the streetlight facilities in the existing alley network, that the applicant receives planned unit development or PUD approval from the Zoning Commission formalizing the development proposal, and that the applicant demonstrates that they have received approval for a tree protection plan or tree removal permits for the special tree within the alley closure area. As you've heard since that letter, each of the three conditions have been satisfied, and the other utilities were also notified of this application on December 13th, 2023, and we have received no objections from the other utilities. Pursuant to DC Official Code Section 9-202.023, the DC Surveyor's Office notified the National Capital Planning Commission of this application on December 13th, 2023, and in a letter dated December 27th, 2023, National Capital Planning Commission staff determined that the proposed project falls under an exception listed in Chapter 8, Exceptions and Project Changes of NCPC's submission guidelines. In particular, the project meets the requirements of Exception 8, which includes street and alley closings located outside of the boundary of the L'Enfant City under the following conditions. Number one, that the street or alley is not adjacent to the federal property, and two, that the street or alley does not provide access to federal property or affect other federal interests. Further, the project was also made available for public review on the NCPC website, and no comments were received. Accordingly, staff has determined that this project is exempt from commission review. Pursuant to DC Official Code Section 9-202.025, The Advisory Neighborhood Commission, ANC 5F, was also notified of this application on December 13th, 2023. And in a letter dated December 13th, 2023, ANC 5F noted support for this application. This concludes my testimony. I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you today and welcome any questions you may have regarding this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vitale. Thank you, both of you. Just a couple of questions. So the bill, and maybe I should look at it. Sometimes when we adopt these bills, we have conditions. Since the conditions have been met, do we need to mention the conditions or not?
I'm always supportive of mentioning the conditions, just for the record, but since they've already been met, I don't think that there would be any objection to excluding them.
All right. The other question is, so tell me how the bureaucracy works that the mayor introduced this bill. The application was filed by the applicant with the surveyor's office. Surveyor's office asks for objections. At what point does the surveyor's office then ask OPLA to have the mayor introduce the bill?
I would need to get back to you on the specifics for this case. Normally, I do not believe that that is the typical process, but on certain occasions, if there is outreach made by the applicant, sometimes the typical introduction process is circumvented.
Well, here it's processed through the surveyor's office and then the mayor introduced the bill. That's kind of the way it usually works. I'm just where I'm really going here is why it went from December 2023 when the surveyor's office sent out the letters to June of 2025 that it finally comes to us.
I may have been delays in getting comments from utilities, certainly in closing out the zoning commission PUD application case. So I think that may have caused some of the delay.
All right, give me just a second. I don't have any other questions for either of you, but I think I do want to ask Mr. Kadlachek if he could come back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to make you get up, get down, come back. So why did it take so long to get here?
It was comments delay. So if I remember correctly, it was introduced, but because we also had the PUD, the planned unit development pending, some of the agencies held off on submitting their reports until the PUD process was finished, namely the Office of Planning. So once the application was filed with the surveyor, it doesn't go anywhere until all of the utility and agency reports.
Sure, but the utilities had no objections.
Right, but that also included, I believe, DDOT and the Office of Planning.
Okay.
So
Well, I could have asked Mr. Miller why
Yeah.
DDOT took until June of 2024 when they were asked in December, but I didn't ask him that question.
But
But
I
when
don't
did
want to
the
speak for them.
zoning commission issue its final order?
The order came out at the beginning of this year.
Of
So we had our hearing in July of 2024, and then we got the final vote, I believe, in September, and then the order came out at the beginning of this year.
Okay, I'll just note for the record, not that anybody's paying attention, but I have been critical of the zoning, Office of Zoning taking so long to issue its orders. So if the vote was in September and the order issued in January, that's at least 4 months? Did it
That was
really take-
approximately 4 months, I believe.
Did it
yes.
really take 4 months to write an order? This is a rhetorical question. Did it really take 4 months to write an order that, in a case where there was no opposition? In any event, so the order comes out in January. We still don't get the bill until June.
Yes, I think there was some delay on the part then. I'm trying to remember all the pieces. I think we still had to wait
I
some
think
to
Mr.
get.
Brown might be trying to catch your
Yeah.
attention.
Mr. Brown might remember some of the pieces better than I do.
What happened is when when the surveyor sent it off to OPLA for the legal review or sufficiency, the head surveyor retired before they went to click on the link to review it. So from January until May, nobody knew where it was. And what we discovered was that when the surveyor retired, the link stopped working. So nobody at OPLA was reviewing the documents. So my push was trying to figure out where an OPLA was and get it back on track. And that came back on track around, I think, April, May of this year, which is when we were pushing to move this thing because it sat for 7 or 8 months with no review in one department.
All right, that's helpful to know. I don't think that gets the government off the hook. What's going through my mind is that the mayor just introduced a bill, and you guys don't have to comment on this, but just introduced a bill to significantly constrain the ability of citizens to protest in a zoning case in the name of speed. But here we're seeing how the delays are. Office of Zoning takes 4 months to issue an order after a vote. The Executive Office of the Mayor takes another 6 months to submit the legislation after everything has been decided. These are all delays that the government could avoid and move the process along more quickly. In my view, when there is a development proposal, citizens, if there are objections, should have a right to express their objections. But if there are no objections, or once they get resolved, the government should act far more quickly than it did here. This has nothing to do with your case. It just has to do with that I'm seeing an example of how the government could have acted more quickly. And Mr. Brown, you could have been here back in April.
Mhm.
I'll just say April because that's when we were waiting for the budget and we didn't have a budget. So we had lots of time to deal with this.
Mhm.
I have no other questions for you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. The record, as I said, will be open for 2 weeks. That is, it will close at 5 p.m. on Monday, October 20th. That says to me that we might be able to move toward a markup the very beginning of November. You have to vote twice, so the earliest we would vote would be, the earliest we would have the bill before the mayor for signature would be in December, I think. So I want to thank all the witnesses. And the time is 11:01 a.m. and this hearing's adjourned.